I pull my keys out of my pocket at that point because of the pressure of leaving. And then I turn as I open the door to face into the theater. And in that light, in that ghost light, I see the silhouettes of the puppets in the middle of the room. And I pull the door shut, the giant doors, and as I'm pulling them shut, something is tugging on the door. And as I'm like trying to lock it, the door is shaking. Can't quite get in the lock, and then I finally get the key to shut, and then it just stops.
Hello, and thanks for tuning in to episode 66 of Your Ghost Stories podcast. And it's not just any old episode today, because today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm joined by some very special guests. From across the pond in Ohio, we have Tyler and Charlie, hosts of the fantastic podcast Believing the Bizarre. These guys began back in 2020 and have since gained an army of listeners and supporters with an amazing 5K 5-star reviews on Spotify alone. And it's clear to see why. These guys are hilarious, clued up on UFOs, hauntings, conspiracies, and all the rest of it, and they're just a lot of fun to listen to. So without further ado, it's a pleasure to introduce Tyler and Charlie to the show.
Your Ghost Stories. Your Ghost Stories.
How are we doing, guys? Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
I need you there every Monday morning when I wake up for work because I just feel so pumped up after that intro.
I was like, I've never thought of that like that before. That was amazing. Thank you.
Oh, that's no problem at all. So where did you guys meet and what inspired you to start Believing the Bizarre?
Oh, man. Okay.
Those are different questions.
So in 2010, we were both freshmen at the University of Akron here in Ohio, and it took us a semester to find each other. But we were both interested in theater.
Yeah.
And
well, that was my bachelor's.
Go ahead,
yeah, that was my bachelor's degree, and we both did improv, right? So, I was recommended to do improv from some people I knew in theater, and like, oh, also our friend Tyler's in improv. You might like him a lot. You might get along. We both played like guitar, and like that was one of the things that like drew us together. But I had got a lot of information about Tyler from people that I knew. So like when I saw him walking in like the cafeteria, I was like, oh shit. I acknowledged in my head, I was like, that's Tyler. And I did like a hard spin on my heel and it looked fucking ridiculous. But I was like, hey, you're Tyler, right? And he was like, yeah. No idea who I was. And I was like, oh, you live in this one dorm, right? I was like, I live there too. And he's like, okay, cool. I was like, you live on the 3rd floor, right? And he's like, yeah.
You said 319 too. You like said that he knew my room number.
Wow.
And I wasn't.
Bet you were like, who is this dude? Who is this stalker?
I wasn't popular either. So it's not like this was a common occurrence. I was very much nobody.
And then you're like, well, you know my social too?
Yeah, I did say that.
I didn't.
I think me and one of my friends had joined an improv troupe, and it was like we were the only 2 new people, and there were like 7 older people, and we were excited to learn from them. And my bachelor's in psychology, so improv was like my creative outlet. And it was like after the first semester, all the older people were like, yeah, we're not going to do this anymore. We think you can run it. And I'm like, what? So I think that's probably how Charlie had heard about me, because it had been like handed to me.
Yeah, they were looking for people to join as well.
So fast forward to answer the second question. It was a lot of failed creative experiments that we tried to do. We wrote a feature-length film, and we were going to star in it, and that was overly ambitious. Great screenplay, but we didn't have the means, the budget, or the cast to do it. And then we tried to start a production company in 2015. Didn't have the means, cast, or the know-how to do it.
The know-how for sure.
And then in 2016, 2017, we started a band. And after a couple years, we actually started playing out. We weren't great. We were not great. We were like a little pop punk thing.
Yeah.
Not very good. And then 2019, our bassist quit. Going into 2020, well, actually, in 2019, we started another podcast that went nowhere. And and then in 2020, the pandemic happened. Everyone's inside. And it kind of gave Charlie and I an opportunity to think about, okay, the band's stopped. The bassist quit. No one's going to see live music right now. Like, let's focus on something else. And our podcast wasn't performing the way we thought, well, the way we wanted, but also it wasn't set up for success. Like, it was like a variety show where one episode would be so different from the next. And we were just like, why would somebody this week listen to it next week if it's so different? So we like met up at this coffee shop with a list of things that we cared about. And like, I was like, I like sports. And he's like, eh. And he's like, I like anime. And I'm like, eh. But one thing that we both circled was paranormal.
Yeah.
Like, we really liked Time of the Paranormal. We both have different backgrounds.
Underline started.
Underline asterisk. And then we started Believing the Bizarre. And it was a combination of hard work and a lot of luck. I think timing wise, everyone had so much more free time. People were staying home. I think it was a very lucky time for us to start a podcast.
Nice. So it was like love at first sight from that moment you saw each other in the hallway.
I mean, yeah.
I was pumped that he was in a band or like played music, because I was just, in 2010, I was just learning how to play guitar and I was very bad at it. And him and his roommate were like, yeah, we play guitar and bass. I was like, yo. And they're like, we don't take it too seriously. I was like, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'd only been playing for a couple years at that point as well.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. We were pretty bad.
Yeah.
Do you guys not play in a band together anymore?
No way.
No, not really. No, honestly, the BTV is taking over everything.
Yeah, we don't. It would even if we wanted to, our wives would probably kill us.
Yeah.
If like working full time plus we each probably put like 30 hours
Yeah.
into the podcast. If we were like, hey, on top of that, we're also going to start practicing music and playing out, they would just be like, yeah, you can stay out. You just don't come back.
I know you said you were in a band
Yeah,
too.
I totally know the feeling. Yeah, I do music full time. I've been doing it for about 4 or 5 years now.
Wow.
That's
I do a lot
amazing.
of like session stuff. And yeah, I used to play in rock bands and stuff.
Oh, so
very
you're a
cool.
session musician? So if like somebody needs like an instrument on the recording, you just kind of hop in and you're like, let's go.
Yeah, so I do a lot of vocal stuff and songwriting.
Okay.
Okay, wow. That's very
But
cool.
yeah, there's websites like Fiverr.com, and I've been on those for years. And but yeah, so that's kind of what I do, like day to day, and then do a bit of the podcast on the side. But it's a very similar story to you guys actually. Is like life just slows down during the pandemic and stuff, and you think, oh, what other things do I enjoy? And I actually started this podcast, Your Ghost Stories, with my friend who I was in a band with, and but yeah, he about 20 episodes in just didn't have the time, so
Yeah.
it's just me now, and yeah.
Can't blame them,
But,
though. I mean, it is such a time commitment.
get
I
it.
think people think, and it's fine. I mean, I wouldn't be able to tell you how other industries work, but I think there's the mindset that you just turn on the mic and you talk. Like, well, how hard could that be? It's like, okay.
Man, it is so time consuming, isn't it? Like just running the podcast, and I'm doing everything by myself. So I'm the producer, I've got to get in touch with everyone, do all the customer service, replying to all the emails, all the admin, all the editing, everything that goes into it.
Well, kudos to you, man.
Yeah,
But-
I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah, I was looking at your website earlier on today actually, and saw that you guys have got a team of people, which is awesome. That must relieve so much pressure. So I know you guys still do a lot of the work yourself, but I saw you have a writer and some people helping with design.
It
and
does
stuff,
help,
so-
yeah. Like, we have no creative talent like design at all.
Yeah, it's kind of like we know what we're good at, and we wanted to help. We wanted to find people who were good at what they do. But it's unfortunately it's like one-off projects. A lot of it. Like I wish we could afford to have like a team of people. That would be just phenomenal.
Okay. Yeah.
But it is nice that we have like somebody that we know like listens, we can trust. Be like, hey, can you help us with this T-shirt design? And my background's in marketing, so our producer Ben, he worked with me at the previous job, and it was nice to have someone that kind of spoke the marketing language with me that we could bring in. And he's phenomenal. So yeah, we are in many, many, many ways. A lot of behind the scene of what we do and how we get where we get is luck and help.
Yeah, maybe it was kind of fate, you guys coming together, because you've got so much chemistry, and yeah, I think it's a wonderful thing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a slow cooker thing because I mean, like I said, we've done so many failed projects. It
Yeah.
would be if we would have quit after the first failed project, there would be no Believing the Bizarre. It literally took us like 4 or 5 failures to get to something that is actually clicking.
I think a lot of the chemistry comes from like we have worked really intimately in like a lot of things like improv, theater. There's a lot of trust that we built up.
And also not wanting to let the other person down. Like I think, and again, kudos to you doing everything on your own. In my opinion, and this I'm only speaking for myself here, if it was just me, it would be so easy to be like, I'm so tired, I'll knock this out tomorrow, or I'll skip this episode. But like, as much as I want to do it for myself, it's also like I can't let Charlie down.
Yeah.
And so probably one of the things that we're most proud of is since July of 2020, we've never missed a weekly upload. And I know that would not be true if I was by myself. I know that's not true.
Yeah, it's definitely easier with a bit of accountability, isn't it?
Yes.
I'd love to know who designed the artwork behind you. So if anyone's listening to this on Spotify or Apple or whatever, this video will be on YouTube, so you can go and have a look at and see this conversation over there as well. But yeah, this artwork these guys have got behind them is like a UFO and the Mothman, and
Yeah,
It's
ripped
so cool.
Mothman.
It's amazing.
Dude only does sit-ups.
Rip.
He's got an 18 bag.
Yeah, so it's actually a girl I went to high school with who didn't remember that I went to high school with her, which it just further
What is she? Is she the Mothman? Is she the ripped Mothman?
it further affirms how not popular I am. But it's just this girl who was like a year younger than me in high school, and I just kept seeing all over her Instagram these murals that she was doing, and for a while we were using a tapestry behind us, and it
Yeah.
worked. But it was kind of like, if we're gonna try and do more video stuff, it'd be really cool to have something behind us. So I reached out to her and we talked about it, and she sketched it up and we gave her some ideas. And literally in like 6 hours, which if you're watching on video, you'll know how crazy that is. In 6 hours, she did this entire wall behind us, which is just absolutely insane. But we love it, and it's
6 hours. Wow.
That's
Yeah.
her name too.
Oh yeah, Tessa LeBaron. Tessa LeBaron. I think it's I don't know her
LeBaron.
handle is. Yeah, Tessa LeBaron, like LeBron James.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's awesome.
It's absolutely stunning artwork, and yeah, you guys must be proud to have that behind you.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Now, you guys have covered a lot of topics over the years. How would you say your belief or skepticism in the paranormal has evolved since you started your podcast?
That's a very interesting question. I feel like I went from like really a hardcore believer and just stayed a really hardcore believer, maybe a little bit of wavering, but I really believe in a lot of things a lot of people don't. Like Tyler doesn't believe in the fairies at all. I do, very intensely. But I really believe in aliens. Maybe I'm a little more out there than I thought I was. I don't know.
You've always been out there.
I have always been out there. Yeah.
I don't think it's. I think I've become more knowledgeable, but I don't think it's changed the things that I inherently believe in. Because before doing the podcast, I believed in aliens and I believe in ghosts, and cryptids are hit or miss. I mean, some cryptids I love talking about, but I don't truly believe that they exist. There's nothing. I think probably some of the stuff that I've changed the most on, or think differently of, is like parallel dimensional things, or like doppelgangers, things like that, which I didn't really think about before. But some of those are my favorite stories that we've covered, and I think about it more and more and more. And I feel like I'm looking for things to kind of affirm that or deny it. And I'm finding it more believable than I think I used to, but I don't think there's anything I've drastically changed on. Just become more more knowledgeable about it because we cover it all the time. It's hard not to.
I feel like I've become, I've found different things believable than I did before. Like, I probably would have believed the solo hiker that said he saw a Bigfoot, but now I feel like I need more than that. And maybe it's made me more skeptical. I feel like I'm going backwards.
Especially like this day and age, like when, anyone with a phone or a laptop can, Photoshop an image together, or, a UFO, a picture. It's so, you've really got to be careful, haven't you? Like you can get sucked into it.
Yeah.
And kind of believe everything. But yeah, like you say, you have to have this air of skepticism, because otherwise it's like,
Yeah,
really?
yeah. Or even like AI. You can just type in AI, like a night sky UFO.
Oh man, yeah.
It's so quick.
And that's just crazy nowadays, isn't it? Just imagine, like, how crazy is that now? What that's going to be like in 5 years? Like we're literally going to have no idea what's real and what's not anymore.
Yeah, and it just makes those
yeah,
stories like harder to really believe in. You're right, 100%.
I'm still trying to understand what I, really believe. I like to ask what people's personal beliefs are on what ghosts or spirits are. What do you guys think that good or evil energy is, in your opinion?
I kind of struggle with this personally because I'm not a religious person, but ironically, some of the scariest things we talk about are like demonic entities. And in my mind, it's kind of like, I probably shouldn't even believe this exists, or in the way that maybe we identify it as a demon versus it could just be an evil entity. But whenever we do like a possession story or something like that, it is just absolutely terrifying to me. Ghosts I'm very comfortable living in the gray. It would make me probably a very terrible like researcher. Like I am okay with just being like, I don't know, and I'll probably never know. Like it doesn't bother me not knowing. But I've always kind of thought of it as energy because I don't really believe in an afterlife per se. Like I don't believe there's a heaven or a hell. But it's like, okay, we are energy, we're matter. The body dies. What happens to that energy? And then you're like, well, if something traumatic happened, then maybe it sticks around. Or if there's, quote, unfinished business, it sticks around. But then you always see like those random memes that aren't meant to make you think too hard. They're just meant to be funny. But you're like, how come you never see a ghost in Jinko jeans? Or how come you never see a dinosaur ghost? And you're just kind of like, ugh, I don't know. Do they just deteriorate? Or like are the 1990s and 2000s ghosts, are we not here yet? I don't know, because you always hear like it's Victorian or it's like somebody from the 1800s or the early 1900s. Not always, but
It's like they can only last a few hundred years and then they just poof, gone.
yeah. I don't know. I don't personally have a great explanation. One of the reasons I really truly believe it is I have close friends who have seen things, and there's just so many stories. Like how can all these people across the world in decades and decades and decades report seeing something, and I'm just like, nah. No, it's not real.
And what about you, man? What's your opinion on this kind of stuff?
So the question was like evil and good, right?
Yeah.
I do have more of a religious background than Tyler. I've always been scared of demons and hell and stuff like that. It's always been a real fear. But also it's something we talked about on the podcast before is it comes to intentions, right? So like the real thing that makes demons scarier than just like a cryptid who wants to tear you apart is that it wants suffering. It feeds off that suffering, evil intentions. So that's where the evil comes in for me. But I also really like to think that if there is that evil, that really dark evil of like the demonic, I hope that there is also a balance and that they're good guardian angels, family members coming to visit. I do want to believe that there's that balance there. And that's something that helps me sleep. Because if it wasn't for that, then I would have some real issues. Like when we were listening, I was researching the information for the possession of Annalise Michelle. I think it's not quite that, but I had some real fear that night. Like I remember the lamp was on next to me in my room when my wife was asleep, and like I could just feel the presence around me, just like it was dark, and I knew it was dark, and I was like, I need to stop now because this could get really sketchy if I keep going. And I think it all boils down to that intention, right? I was focusing, I was giving it energy, and that was scary. But yeah, what about you? How do you feel about that good or evil thing?
I sit somewhere pretty much in the middle of what you guys are saying. So I'm not a religious person whatsoever. I have zero religious background. I've always been quite, I'd say anti-religion. Other than up till lately, I keep, and the more people I talk to, and that's why I really like to ask this question, is I like to, I'm just, like everyone, I'm trying to figure out, what is life? Why are we here? What's going on? And I just find that the older I get, the more I seem to be swayed towards, I'd say, I don't know, but like Christianity, because I really do believe from the bottom of my heart in good and evil. And, I listened to so many stories, I'm sure as you've come across, like, Satanism in the music industry and blah blah blah, and Hollywood and all this. Of course, it's prolific, it's everywhere. How can you avoid it?
Yeah, Hollywood
And
right
so
now
I really,
is under the.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
And everything, sports, everything is infiltrated, right? And for me, there's no denying it. It's like it's so in your face, all this demonic imagery everywhere. I went to a Muse gig a few months back in London, and the whole thing, the stage was just a big devil. It was a really boring performance because nothing happened,
that's Muse.
and I was just sitting there. It ruined it for me, And for me, so yeah, going back to the answer, yeah, I deeply have always believed that all this, there's power behind this evil energy that's in the world. So if I believe in that, then there's got to be good, and myself, obviously, like most people, you'd be swayed because you want to be a good person, you want to help people, you want to be kind and be loving. You don't want to be evil and worship Satan, of course not. So yeah, to me, it's like, so I believe in all that dark stuff, so I have to believe in light. And just the older I get, the more people I talk to, the answer just seems to be coming clearer, or that maybe there is a God. And up till recently, maybe I'd say a couple of years ago, throughout the lockdown, actually, I had, I guess, what people would call a spiritual awakening, where I never really had a spiritual side or anything. I was interested in ghosts and stuff, but never dived deep into it. But yeah, and during the lockdown and stuff, I discovered like all this new age spirituality stuff. And meditation. I got really into meditation, like meditating 45 minutes a day, and just researching into astral projection, blah blah blah. And the more lately that I listen to that stuff and consume that kind of information, it's like, although it's it seems good and it seems loving and kind and everything, the more I read into it or see into it, there is kind of a darker energy attached to it, and those kind of things, same with a lot of things in the paranormal world, the Ouija boards, blah blah blah, just these kind of things. Even meditation, if you're not doing it correctly, can open you to certain energies. But yeah, long way to answer that question.
I know we're gonna come back to your
that's what I
podcast in
believe.
5 years. You're gonna be doing sermons.
Yeah, and this is a weird thing for me to say, because I know that a lot of people listening to this podcast, I don't really know anyone that's religious, and a lot of people that listen to this podcast, when I have people on that speak about their faith or their beliefs, I get comments sometimes. They're like, I don't want to hear about this from this religious nut,
Yeah,
blah blah
yeah.
blah, which is understandable because some people go a bit too deep and too far.
Yeah.
But
I
don't know. At the end of the day, I don't know what I believe in.
Yeah.
I'm just very open-minded.
It's okay to change though, and
Yeah.
that, but it's more so talking to like a broader audience idea of this, like, and also coming from the music industry, it's like every band after 15 years wants that band's sound to sound exactly like the first album, and it changes, and they're like,
Things
no, this
evolve.
album doesn't sound anything like this one, and it's just, and I get that because I'm a fan of bands who have changed over time, and you're like, I wish. But it's just kind of realizing whether you're an artist or a podcaster or a musician or just a person. People change over time. So I think that's cool that you're unlocking new things in your life and finding new paths. Have you landed anything with the astral projection?
I've never really tried, to be honest.
Okay.
Careful in
I got
Insidious
more
movie.
into. Say again, sorry.
So you got to be careful because like Insidious, I don't know, that just lives in my head rent free.
The herp dirt?
Yeah.
The further?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, and I haven't. Yeah, that's kind of not something I've really explored. I got more into kind of the manifestation and law of attraction kind of stuff.
Sure.
And for me, I'm telling you, whatever I did, it worked. Just a quick something that happened to one of those experiences is something that I manifested. I guess is like I got like £2,000 worth of studio equipment from this competition that I entered. I didn't think anything of it.
That's so
but
cool.
I entered this competition and I did this exercise where I was like, all right, okay, sit down, do this meditation, and I believed that I was going to win it, blah, 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 all this stuff. And it took 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I said, and it's done, blum. And then I forgot all about it. And then about 3 weeks later, it all happened. It come to me. And it was like, the chances of like winning the lottery, it's very odd, small odds. But yeah. And I said to myself when I did that exercise, if I win this is proof to me that, there's something more powerful. There's powers in the universe, and whether that's prayer, whether that's just the feeling, it came from my heart and I really felt it. And I think that's the important thing and I think no matter what faith you have, no matter what religion you have, as long as you have faith in something or faith in a higher power, whether that higher power is even yourself, then I think we are a lot more powerful than I think we are. And again, I think a lot of that stuff, even darker stuff, comes from the power of our mind as well.
I think that also boils down a little bit to intention as well. It's you putting intention.
Intention, exactly.
Yeah.
Like what you were,
My dumb ass
what you were saying at the start.
Her 2,000
I did too,
pounds.
I did too.
And I'm like, you better manifest a buddy to help you carry this shit.
But
Yeah, I was thinking weight when you said.
we both thought that.
I couldn't help laugh for a minute. when
It's
you
our
said
fault.
2,000 pounds.
This is what we
Yeah,
are.
Yep, I was like,
It's like, no, you
manifest some
idiots.
muscles.
No, you dumb,
Yeah.
stupid Americans.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, and I haven't tried it since, so I can't be sure.
But you don't want to abuse it,
Yeah.
No, exactly. I don't want to abuse my powers.
Like, this is the next guy to get that Joe Rogan Spotify contract. Like, manifest it.
Manifest.
But yeah, have you guys received any particularly memorable listener submissions on your show?
Yes.
I forgot them all. I'm kidding.
Yes,
It's a joke.
I'll start and tell you one. And this one scared us so badly that we paused the recording and we Googled how far away it was from where we were.
Oh, yes. I
Yeah,
remember.
it
Yeah,
was
it
like
was
we- like,
uncomfortably close.
I just remember we paused it and I was just like, okay, I'm not going to say the exact location, but she told me in the submission. And I was like, it was like 6 hours, 5 hours. And I'm like, that's too close.
It was too close.
But essentially, it was this girl in Pennsylvania, which is a state bordering Ohio, and she was in this cabin by herself. Her family had left for the evening. She was probably, teens, like 16, 17. And it was snowy. So it's dark, snowy, winds howling. She's by herself in this cabin. And she hears like knocking on the window. And she goes and looks outside, and it's just this. It's like the description of the pale man, like this very scrawny, bony, like pale face with just this really sinister smile, like stretched smile, looking at her through the window. And it's like a wooden cabin. It's just like you don't have that safety of home, and like if she had that moment of like while she's staring at this thing smiling at her outside, like mentally checking which doors are locked, like what do I have to do, on top of being absolutely terrified. And she like darts to her back door and she can just hear this thing like running around the cabin with her, and she locks it, and then it's just like curling up in the middle of the room while she's hearing this banging outside this cabin. And we've
It
had
was short, but it
we've
was
had
terrible.
creepy submissions, we've had a lot of creepy stories, but that is the one where it's like right before I drift to sleep at night, if I think of the podcast and a listener submission, it's always that one.
Yeah. There's a couple that come to mind. But the one that I remember I told was from this guy that lived in not Chicago, in Illinois.
Same thing.
It was like rural Chicago, so it was like in the middle of nowhere. But he had a couple experiences, but the one that stuck out most in this situation was his mom was coming to wake him up, but it was like early, like 4 or 5 in the morning. And he wakes up to see his mom like fully dressed, ready to go work. And he's like, what is going on? And she said, it's time to wake up. And then he said, okay. And then she starts to not turn around and walk out of the room, but she backs up facing him. And as she's backing up, he could see the light from the hallway shining through her head. And it like distorts and fades. and then she goes into the hallway and continued looking the whole time, and then leaves. And he ran downstairs and to see like what that was, and like to check his mom, and his mom was like in her pajamas, asleep. So it was a complete doppelganger. Very, that one lives in my head too.
Very bizarre.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so creepy too. It's just so creepy, and that was one of the first stories of doppelgangers we had, and that's what really like two things that will always creep me out, and I love them in a story are doppelgangers and like voices being mimicked.
Yeah.
You know, if you're in the woods or you're in a house and you hear someone call your name and it's not that person, that's the type of horror cliche that I just eat up. I love it, but it also scares me to the bone.
I had that exact thing happen to me.
You've experienced
Yes.
that?
Oh, dude, it was so to this day, like I've had a few experiences in my life, but to this day, one of the creepiest things that's ever happened to me.
Well, you got to tell us now.
Yeah.
I mean, your audience might already know it, but if you want to give us like the spark
Yeah.
notes.
Oh man, I'll give it to you. So basically, a few years back, probably 8 years ago, you know, I was living at my mum's at the time, you know, with just like my family home and stuff. And I used to spend a lot of time, so it was my mum, my stepdad, and my younger sister and stepbrother. I used to spend a lot of time just upstairs in my bedroom, just playing Xbox or just on my laptop or whatever. It wasn't a very, you know, happy home. They're now split up, and just, you know, I just didn't really get on very well with my stepdad, so just try to just avoid him and keep myself to myself. Anyway, so I was upstairs, and one day just on my laptop, as I normally was, and it's just a small, like, 3-bedroom house, so I had no headphones on, no music, nothing, and you'd know when someone's up the stairs just because, you know, it's very small, you can just hear them. And all of a sudden there was just this knock 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 on my door, and it was my stepdad's voice, and he said, Jamie, come downstairs now, like quite an angry tone. You know, it was just really out of place, and I was like, we didn't really talk much, so I said straight away, I was like, why? There was just complete silence. I was like, oh, that's weird. I was like, yeah, you know, what do you want? What's the matter? Nothing. Didn't hear any footsteps, no one going down the stairs. I just thought, oh, that's, you know, bizarre. So I just opened the door, went downstairs, and my mum was sitting, you know, right in the sitting room, right at the bottom of the stairs. And I said to my mum, I was like, oh, what is it that he wants? He's just come upstairs. And she's like, you know, he's didn't come upstairs, you know, he's in the garden, in the shed, and then I'm like, oh, whatever, walk outside, and bearing in mind the garden shed, I'd come down seconds after he'd called, and the garden shed was, you know, it's a very long garden path, you know, a good 50 yards down the garden or whatever, and I walked down to the shed and knocked on the door and said, yeah, you know, what is it you want? And he just looked at me blank, and he goes, what do you mean? I was like, you literally just knocked on my bedroom door and told me to come downstairs. And he's like, no, I didn't. And that's it. To this day, I have no explanation, you know. But I can tell you with 100% certainty, there was a knock at my door, and it was his voice, and he said, "Jamie, come downstairs now."
That's so weird.
The things like that, it's like the paranormal is so unknown, and there's so many people that don't believe in anything paranormal, and it's just like you can no longer live your life not believing.
Right.
Like you might
You're
not know
stuck.
what to believe in. You might not know you can't put a name to things or put things perfectly in a box, but it's just like we have a friend that's literally seen a ghost through a door. And it's like, okay, you can no longer live without thinking there are paranormal things in this world. Like I love that story. I'm glad it didn't happen to me. But
Yeah.
it's so creepy.
That's so good.
Yeah, like you say, it's just I hate having experiences, and I've had quite a few, and it's not a nice thing. It's not a nice feeling, you know, the fear. But yeah, it's so fascinating, man, and that's, you know, why we do what we do with these podcasts. Just, you know, just trying to figure it out and figure out what's going on. Do either of you guys have your own personal experiences with the paranormal?
Yeah, so we've had our own experiences. We've got a couple together.
Do your theater one.
Yeah,
That's a nice short.
Okay, yeah. So I mentioned before, I got my bachelor's degree in theater. So I was a stage manager like my last year of like this show. It was a Shakespeare show. And the theater in Akron was a black box. So it's just a big square room, all painted black. So toward the end of the night, I decided I wanted to stay after rehearsal and do some notes, to catch up on some notes. So everyone had just left. So I was in the room by myself. All the lights were on. And I started working, and then like 10 minutes had gone by, and I was like, you know what? I feel weird. I feel like I'm being watched. I got to get out of here. So I packed up my bags, and I was like, okay, I got to go. And in the corner was where the light switch was. It's not where the door was, but in the corner was the light switch. So you had to hit the lights, walk about halfway through the room, and make a hard left through the
Large wooden doors.
there's a name for it. I can't remember the name for it.
Big ass doors.
They're like 12 by like 10 feet. They're
These
giants.
are probably 2,000 pounds too.
So to get through those doors, you had to turn off the light, and then hopefully you have the ghost light plugged in already, so it's not complete black. So I plugged in the ghost light, and then I walked to the light switch, which also had these two 4.5 feet tall puppets that we're using for like blocking. They're like child size, and they were pretty creepy themselves. They're by the light switch. So I walk past them, I say hi guys, and I hit the switch, and it's just like the little sun in the middle of the room with that ghost light, so it's not complete black. And I'm walking out, and I still feel this presence, like I'm being watched. But I also feel a little bit more than that now. It's like almost like gripping. Like if you don't get out of this space now, I felt like something terrible is going to happen. And then I almost feel like I was being like pushed out. Like not physically pushed, but like the energy is just like pushing me out. So I'm walking as fast as I can out of this room. And I get through, and I turn to the left to leave, and I see the big doors, and I pull my keys out of my pocket at that point because of the pressure of leaving. And then I turn as I open the door to face into the theater. And in that light, in that ghost light, I see the silhouettes of the puppets in the middle of the room that had just been in the corner. I saw them. And I pull the door shut, the giant doors. And as I'm pulling them shut, something is tugging on the door, and it's like preventing me from closing it. And like I pull it hard, and as I'm like trying to lock it, the door is shaking like that. Like my hand like can't quite get in the lock, and then I finally get the key to shut, and then it just stops.
And those are like 12-foot tall wooden.
They're huge doors.
Yeah.
When I left the building altogether, I called my now wife, and I was like, I'm never going to be alone in that theater again. I refuse. And that's my story. That was terrible.
Damn, I don't blame you, dude, for not going back there. It's always them damn theaters, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's because you plugged in the ghost light, man. Everyone knows that activates the spirits.
It turns them on.
Turn
It's like
the
a light.
ghost,
Yeah, I
yeah.
didn't realize it was
You're
an
like,
on
"All right."
switch.
Why is it called a ghost
Crack
light?
the knuckles, it's game
Because
time.
I don't know why it's called a ghost light, but I know if you don't plug it in, it is pitch black. You can't even see your hand in front of your face. Just because there's no windows at all. There's no light coming in.
It's probably like some break a leg stuff. Like,
Probably.
this is the ghost
I
light.
think so, yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't know the exact.
I wasn't a theater major, so I don't know.
They didn't tell me. It wasn't in the pamphlet.
On the quiz.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so my experience happened probably about 10 years ago now. 10 or 11 years ago.
Can I stop really quick before
Yeah,
you
go
start?
ahead.
Do you want to plug your computer in?
Oh, good call, yeah. One second.
Sorry.
Intermission.
No worries.
It's at like 14%. I was like, this is going to die.
Right at the scary point.
Yeah.
Just when it's getting good.
Now, are you going to tell us everything you're going to tell?
Yeah, I don't know if I have my charger.
Oh, no.
I think my charger's at home.
Well,
now. We're gonna have to make this work.
Okay.
All right.
All right. If we drop out, that's why.
Yeah, I'll try. God damn, I'll try to make this fast. Okay.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, yeah, we can start wrapping up in the next 5-10 minutes anyway. So
Okay.
Okay.
So about 10 years ago, I was hanging out with my friends where I'm from in very northeast Ohio, which is a little bit more rural than where we are in Akron. And we would always hang out late. We were both night owls. We'd go to Taco Bell late, just kind of shoot the breeze, talk about what we want to do in life and things like that. And it was a very joyful mood. Like there was nothing down. We were very happy. And we were driving on this pretty rural 2-lane road. And I specifically remember we were listening to Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls. And as we're driving, I see this dead possum in the road, which is what it is. It's roadkill.
Northeast Ohio.
It's Northeast Ohio. So I stop, I come to a complete stop and go around it. And we're driving again for a couple minutes. And then I see 2 more dead possums, like right next to each other, stopped in the middle of the road. And at this point, we're like, well, that's a little weird, but whatever. So we pass it. I'm on my way to drop him off. And it's like right in the breakdown of Iris. I specifically remember because we were like singing the music part. That da-na-na-na, da-na-na-na, bum, bum. Anyway, so we're singing, we're having fun. But it's like
big tune.
Big, great song. But I was like, I'm already driving slower. I drove slow anyways because I was in my Jeep Wrangler, which had terrible gas mileage. But I was just driving slow because we'd already had to stop twice for roadkill. And so the idea of stopping or seeing something on the road wouldn't have been scary in itself. And as I'm driving, I see these eyes on the left side of the road, like looking directly at us. And I already start braking because I'm like, here we go. There's something else. And so I start slowing down. And this thing, it like is coming at us. And I thought it was maybe a deer. But then it starts going perpendicular to my Jeep and crosses in front of us. And it was creepy in itself, but it was more so the feeling. But it's this thing that just shot across the road. It was like absolutely pitch black, except for these like bright yellowish orange eyes, which are just staring at us. Like it's not looking where it's moving. It's probably looking at the Jeep, but me and my friend truly feel like it was looking at us through the Jeep. And the hardest thing to explain, and I feel like just because I can't comprehend it, is how it was moving. Like the best, like the way that like the shoulder blades moved and the way that its 4 legs moved, it was just fast, irregular, no color, just like the absence of color, just pitch black. And it just flew across the road. And by flew, I mean, like sprinted on all 4s into this little tiny cemetery, which has like 6 or 7 graves. And my friend and I didn't say anything. We didn't scream. There was no communication, but we looked at each other and we were both like ready to start crying. Like whatever we saw, like I don't think the way that I process it is the way that my body received it. And it would be one thing if I was like, I think that was this. And he's like, I think it was that. And then we like hyped ourselves up, but without any communication, just both of us seeing this thing after already stopping and seeing roadkill. So we weren't like surprised to stop or anything like that. I just remember we were both absolutely terrified on the verge of tears. And he was like, please pass my house. Because we were only a minute away from his home. And he's like, keep driving. I cannot stop and get out of here yet. And it was hard to kind of understand what it might be. At first we thought it was an alien. And I've kind of landed on Skinwalker. Sorry, I saw my computer's going to go to sleep soon. I would land on Skinwalker. It was just funny because like his dad was like, "Oh, you might have just seen an owl." I was just like,
No.
"I don't think so, but maybe."
That's a funny looking owl.
Yeah, but no, it's
The fact that the head was pointed at you the whole time is what scares me the most.
the way the body moved. Like I can't like when you see pictures of Skinwalker, like there's that famous one where like the back legs are bent backwards. Or like angled.
Yeah, when you were describing that, that's the first thing that came to my mind is Skinwalker, the way you described
Yeah,
that.
and it doesn't seem like an Ohio thing.
Yeah,
but
we're not like in the area where that makes sense.
Yeah, like if this was Arizona or something, then obviously for sure. But I don't know, it was very scary, and it's
dude gets around.
yeah, he travels. He's
Yeah.
like, I heard
He was on vacation.
Lake Erie's nice, but it was more so the feeling, like the visual of what I saw. It's scary, but my body's never reacted to something like that with such low stimuli, just like absolute terror and dread, and to know that I wasn't alone in it. And I looked at him, and I could already see like his eyes welling up. I'm like, oh, this affected him just as deeply.
Yeah, that's a story, man.
Very scary.
Yeah.
Very heavy. So, which episode of your guys would you recommend to a new listener? What would be a good starting point?
That is the question.
Let's give them if they want humor and if they want horror.
Yeah. Okay.
If you want humor, and you just want a shorter episode to see if you actually like us or not, I would say either the Flatwoods Monster or Antonio Villas-Boas. They're both pretty early. I think Antonio Villas-Boas is 17. Flatwoods Monster is probably like 21. They're early episodes.
Missing. Weirdly enough, we listened to Missing 411 together recently. That was pretty funny too. Despite the content, it was still pretty funny.
If you want horror, I would say the Ouija board demon. I don't know what episode number that is.
I don't either. Cursed Games Part 2.
Cursed Games Part 2. That one was very creepy.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Yeah.
All the rest suck.
No, I wouldn't say that. Those stand out in our minds because there are some moments in them that are just like they pop out. Those are interesting places. Those are good places to start, I think.
Yeah.
What are your guys' long-term goals for the podcast?
I want to meet some people that are famous podcasters. That'd be really cool. I don't know if that's a goal for the podcast.
Last podcast.
Last podcast and left. I love them. Goal? I don't know, man. That's a hard question. What's a goal for you?
I want to keep doing this. I hope that we're still enjoying this, and I hope we still have people that enjoy listening to this in 5 years.
That's such a nice
I know
answer.
that's a very basic goal. It's just so hard to... Everything's changing so much in... Like, people may not even listen to podcasts regularly in 10 years. You know what I mean? It's like... And I don't foresee, like, this becoming my full-time job. I don't... You know, so there's like nitty gritty things like, oh, get this many patrons, or start averaging this many downloads per episode. Like there are those things, but more so than anything, like I hope Charlie and I still enjoy doing this in 5 years, which I anticipate we will. But hopefully Charlie doesn't say something that gets us canceled. I'm just kidding. I'm hoping that even if it's very steady and it stays the same, I just hope that we're getting enjoyment out of it in 5 years, and that there's people that still want to listen to us.
I want my father-in-law to understand what it is, but that's not going to happen. That's fine. He doesn't need to.
Well, I believe you guys are well on your way to greatness. So keep being you, keep doing what you do, because you really are bloody great at it. Where can people listening to this come and find your show?
Well, you are already listening to a podcast, probably. You can find us on any podcast player. We particularly enjoy Spotify. Yeah. YouTube. There's this stuff on YouTube that's more than just episodes.
I'm in marketing, so our SEO is fantastic.
That's
if you
true.
search Believing the Bizarre, we own like the first 4 pages. So pick something from there. But yeah, whatever podcasting platform you're listening on, or check us out on Instagram. We're easy to find. We try to be easy to find.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for your time. It's been so much fun chatting to you, and I'd love to stay in touch and hopefully do this again sometime.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is
thank you so
awesome.
much
Thank
for
you.
having us. You'll have to be on our show.
Yes. Yeah.
I'd love to, whenever you're ready.
Your ghost stories. Your ghost stories.
I just want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you for your incredible support. Your Ghost Stories is just over a year old, and we're currently getting around 10,000 organic listeners per month, which is mind-blowing. As most of you guys will know, Your Ghost Stories is a fully independent podcast, and the running and upkeep of the show are entirely funded by myself. To help me continue bringing you these fascinating weekly interviews and stories, Your Ghost Stories is now accepting donations via PayPal. Each month, 50% of all donations will go to a different and selected charity, chosen by you through a poll on our Instagram page on the 1st of each month. The remaining 50% will be used directly to help keep the podcast up and running and expand our reach through marketing. Your contributions not only help us to grow and continue to thrive, but more importantly, will make a difference in the world. You'll find a link to donate any amount of your choice in the description of this episode, or via the website yourghoststoriespodcast.com. If you're not in a position to donate, I totally understand. Times are difficult for a lot of people right now, but if you still want to help support the show for free, you can do this by following the podcast on Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen to this podcast, or even better, by leaving us a kind review to help others just like you find the show. Thank you so much for your generosity and support.